Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Rocket Monday, we're going to talk about some news that happened in space of 30/08/2024. So basically today. So let's dive deep into it. Now, the biggest news of the town is that Starliner is now finally declared as unsafe. It's not longer like, guess or we are working. No, it is unsafe. So this was done for public announcement in 24 August 2024 by NASA. So this is not third party or Boeing or anything like this. This is from NASA. Is that they have passed the final verdict. If you remember their previous one, they are working with Boeing at that point in time, and they were figuring out what every team in NASA was saying, because we mindful NASA has like a lot of teams. Some people who are experts in thrusters, some are expert in orbit, some are expert in electronics. All of these people, they have to give their stamp. Like if you have seen old movies of Apollo, that's how they're like, propulsion, go, electronics, go, power, go, propellant, go, auxiliary, go. Like they have to go through that. Same thing happens here. Whenever there is a doubt, all of them have to give their consensus. That consensus was not clear. It was neither yes nor no. However, this time they have reached a consensus that it is no. Meaning, what does that mean? It simply means if they detach it and try to return it, 99% chance is it's safe. Nothing bad's gonna happen. But it's not enough. Meaning it has reached into territory where they are no longer comfortable. Basically, they learned the lesson from space shuttle, where basically the first space shuttle was super easy to avoid, but they, even though a person did scream like O-ring has malfunctioned, thou shall not launched it. Yes, it did happen, and because of the bureaucracy and the mess, it was launched anyway, and boom. So they have learned their lesson. And the second time also, it was like, we had the footage, why did not we review it? Why did not we try to figure something out with it? Because hey, still they were like, nothing could have been done. Hey, still nothing could have been done is after the fact. While you are there, people could have tried anything. There were 10,000 things that could have been tried. So people realized very early on that if even one person in NASA, that is a NASA employee, screaming, it's like, bro, stop, you stop. So they did that. And everybody is like, okay, we all agree that this is not good enough. The end of discussion. We're not going to risk it. Even though 99.99% chances that if we detach it, let it land, nothing bad will happen, but we cannot risk it. That's a good thing. Now, Starliner will undock on 6 September 2024. Now what about it causing harm to International Space Station? Likelihood of that is almost zero. It's designed in such a way, and be mindful, it's not crippled, it's not damaged. And you will like, okay, what about that thruster? It's designed in such a way that if one thruster pod goes offline, it's like, I got this. It's designed in that way. It's a human system. It's what we call triple redundant system, meaning it can handle that. So again, if they have to do an emergency, that's what they were talking about during this live stream from space, is that could we, like, let's say some emergency happen, you have to evacuate ISS. Let's say a debris shower coming directly at ISS cannot move out of the way, you have to yeet out of there. In that point in time, they would have jumped into Starliner and tried to return, and 90% chance was there that nothing bad would have happened. Maybe a rougher re-entry landing, but nothing worse. But it's not good enough. So what is next? Okay, this time they're going to detach it. They are doing the software patches and all that work that is needed. Testing, verification, mostly it's testing and verification. That will be done. But how the heck Sunny and William will return? Well, they will return with this group, and this group, basically, unfortunately, 2 people from this will have to stay behind. Crew 9 mission, 2 people have to stay behind, and then during their return, which will be in February 2024, February 2025. Yes, they're gonna return next year. They're gonna Butch and Sunny, they're gonna return with them. So that's the issue. Now here's the deal. Okay, what about during that time? Because again, that's a still long time, and this launch is still few days away. Let's say something bad happens, like China goes boom, and debris cloud is big enough, violent enough, where they know if it goes through ISS orbit, ISS is done for. How can they evacuate? Well, they can. This is the core design of Dragon capsule that is docked already. So this was designed for 7 people. Like, it's a shuttle replacement. It's designed for 7 people. So the idea is they have replaced the basically the bottom row with payload. They're like, we need some pressurized payload that would be desirable. So they're like, okay, that's what has been done. However, those places can be vacated of payload, and 2 people can sit there. However, be mindful, they will not have spacesuit. They can wear a spacesuit, but it won't be any benefit to it, because it will not have the umbilical connection, meaning they will be vulnerable. Let's say they detach and something bad happens. Let's say something punctures a hole through the Dragon, and Dragon started losing atmosphere. The 4 astronaut that's designed to stay there, their spacesuit will be like, I got you, fam. These 2 will not. So, but again, that's like, cascading failure of God tier level, but they can be returned. So that's like extreme emergency scenario. If something happens to ISS where they have to evacuate, they can evacuate, and 99% chance they will return safely. Uncomfortable, but safely they can return. So they are not stuck, and resupply mission has been done, so they no longer even have to worry about clothes. They got it. They're sorted. Food, water, clothes, they're sorted, they're good. And again, they are trained astronaut for this exact reason. Training mission and trial mission, these things have higher risk. They are trained for it. Everything is fine, everything is sorted. We have made a decision. It's gonna be delayed. They're gonna return, and it's like okay. And I've seen like 2, they are stuck there. It's like, dude, no, they're not stuck there. They always had that option. And even Starliner is designed. Again, we are being extra cautious, but does not mean like you do not have an option. So Starliner is unsafe, and worst case scenario would be Starliner returns and then it messes up. Meaning, let's say something worst really does happen at that point in time, and it burns up in the atmosphere. Then this project will be cancelled. But as of now, nobody is expecting that. Everybody's like, dude, nothing is gonna happen. We are just being overcautious, but it's better to be overcautious. But it's done. The final decision has been made. We have to now wait for these gentlemen to return in February 2025. Now that's Boeing's issue. SpaceX is also not flying very hot. They already had a second stage failure which caused a mission failure, and this time they had a booster failure. Now booster failure is a lower priority compared to second stage, because if your second stage fails, you no longer have a payload in orbit. If first stage return fails, it's like so this happened on 28 August 2024. First stage, basically this puppy, when it tried to land, it crashed. Now it was not slow enough. It wabammed into the plate of this shortfall of the gravitas. It wabammed there, and one of the connecting hinge, this hinge, it just yeeted out of there, or like tendon, what you would say. Scott Manley did a very interesting breakdown of that. You can watch the video link down below. But basically, one of those things break. It hit so hard, one of them break. Why did it break? We do not know. It could be fatigue failure. It could be some other failure. We do not know. That will be figured out after the investigation. So booster went down, crashed, and then tipped over. Now this booster was very unique simply because it was what we classify as life leader, meaning this was the most used booster. Boosters generally are not designed for this kind of lifespan. Most boosters are single use and throw. This is the first booster that's ever has been actually used and reused. Most of the time, if you watch their old videos, heck, even my old videos 4 or 5 years ago, SpaceX was like, we think we can reuse them for 10 times. Because again, the amount of R&D money poured into these things can only be justified if they are actually reused again and again and again. Only then you return it. Because if it's like, you use and throw, and like use it 2-3 times and then throw, it's not that valuable. So they really need to stretch that number. And this puppy was the longest they have ever stretched. This puppy was 23 times. Is there anything else that ever matches this level of abuse? Yes, Space Shuttle. However, Space Shuttle after landing took almost a year. So this puppy, 40 days, go. 60 days, go. 45 days, go. Basically, it landed, refurbished, yeet. So this was a life leader, a very big milestone given the fact that nobody else has that. So this was mind-boggling, and this was 23rd return where it just like wabammed it. So something happened. Now FAA has grounded them. Now people are angry. It's like, why are you grounding them? If everybody is use and throw, why this crash is causing that an issue? Here's the deal. FAA only activates when you fail to deliver your promise. Meaning, if SpaceX says we're gonna crash in let's say Starship in this location, in this coordinate, you crash in that coordinate, FAA do not give a damn. They're like, we're gonna crash here, and you crash somewhere else, then FAA give us a damn. That's their whole point. That's their whole job. They are doing their job. If SpaceX says we're gonna land this booster in this barge, and if again, let's say they landed it, and during return it tipped over, nobody gives a damn. Rocket job was done. It's like nobody gives a damn. But they crashed it. Like that landing incident failed. Why did it fail? They need to know. Because again, why did you made a false promise otherwise? So they have to figure out what happened, what can they do. They maybe realize, like, let's say the fatigue is so bad that 20 is pushing it. Like, they will be like, okay, we can try 23, 24, but risk of failure goes up too much. So they may be like, okay, we're gonna yeet, basically 20th launch of the booster would be expendable launch. They could decide that, or they could be like, oh, this hinge, we have this Mark II design, which hinge can handle it much longer, So those things will happen. What is the penalty of this? Penalty is Polaris Dawn would be delayed again. Polaris Dawn is a bit sensitive mission because of the landing criteria. It's not going to ISS. It's going into orbit, and it's actually orbiting few times. Meaning, if something bad happens, they have to return. They do not have the life support of ISS. They do not have buffer. Basically, you go, you come back. The end. There is no delay or discussion. So during the landing, if they have to land, and this thing is designed in such a way that it will land no matter what is the weather is. Problem is, you cannot go to retrieve them if weather is bad. So they have to make sure launch weather is good, also the retrieving weather, and retrieving weather was bad, so they had to delay it. Now this happened, so now they are grounded. So I could easily expect this puppy to be delayed even longer. But this is not a bad thing. From no point of view, this is a bad thing. Second stage failure, that's a bad thing. This is like, so I think 23 is the upper limit. Now push it. Either decide to push it, or they may be economically trying to calculate. It's like, okay, we can spend like, $5 to $10 billion into it to just, push it to 30, or maybe it's like, now good enough. We do not know. That's the economist department, and that's the physicist department in the company. They're gonna figure things out. But again, FAA needs to know, like, why did you promise and why did you fail? What happened? What are you going to do to fix it? So this is FAA Falcon 9 booster failure. And it's like the tendon just went footing, and then it's... So that happened. Now we come to Starship update. Now Starship flight test 5 would happen in September 2024. I would put my money on the later half of September, simply because now there is a new issue. FAA is kind of got stuck in some issues. Whenever you are talking about an industrial site like this, there is rules and regulation, and because it's a habitat area, the rules and regulation are quite strict, specifically with wasted water. The water that they are using for rocket deluge system, it's a lot of water, like a lot of water. Most of them is not evaporating away. So that is classified as wastewater. The wastewater has to have certain quality standard to be met. It does not need to be potable water, but it needs to be clean enough. Basically, that's why we have sewage treatment. Sewage is not supposed to be made into drinkable water, but it has to be safe enough where biological material can handle it. But they are failing into it, and there are some trace elements that should not be there. For example, mercury. So now SpaceX is claiming that they had misplaced a decimal point. It could happen. We are human. You can make a mistake. That happens. But FAA cannot take their word for it. They have to look into it, investigate it. So that is causing a bit of a hassle with that water deluge system. Would it be solved? Most likely it would be. The worst case scenario is like they may actually have to invest a lot of money into making a very high-end water distillation system, which may actually benefit for them, because if they can make it almost portable enough, they can just keep recycling it. So either evaporates or they keep recycling it. So there is some benefit if they have to upgrade that part. But again, that's the messy part as of now. They are still working it out. They have to figure things out, but we'll know soon enough. Now, chopstick has been tested. They're going to do verbatim it, and it has been reinforced. Either they found out it was not good enough, or it was too much borderline, meaning it was like if one dink happened, it is going to bend or collapse. So it has been reinforced. A lot of welding was done on the chopsticks. These chopsticks, they had a lot of welding done. And one critical aspect is this version 3 engine. Everybody is orgasming over it. This engine will not be used in basically flight 5. Now, could it change? Maybe. Likelihood 0. Because you have to understand, engine was not the weak point. Engine was a very weak point in Starship 1 flight. And again, they knew it, that engine did not have enough oomph to actually be an orbital rocket. It did not have it. They were just like, they can send the rocket, but what was the benefit? They can test the whole system. They did it. They tested the whole system. Everything was fine. Everything was dandy. Then version 2. Now, the last test they did, everything worked out. What was the weak link at that point? Weak link was heat shield. They are upgrading heat shield, because here's the deal. That's the weak link. They have to figure out, can they make sure that basically the hinge, they have a heat shield there that can handle it or not. That's it. Nothing else is broken at this point in time. So they are not wasting all those engines they have already manufactured. And this puppy is undercooked as of now. Like, because here's the deal. You're like, okay, everything is integrated. It's tight. It's good. Cool, awesome. But here's it also makes it very use and throw kind of engine. Meaning, in the last designs, if you had a flow manifold problem where a manifold was bent, or something happened, like let's say it was just not good enough, you could have replaced it. In the first one, it was super easy. Everything was joints. Second one, they reduced it, but did not remove it. Here, everything is integrated. If one thing goes wrong, it would be cheaper for them to heat the engine, maybe salvage the nozzle. So it's almost like SOC level. Like think about this, like you have a computer, right? Now imagine a computer that has like everything into one silicon, like how Apple M1 has, like everything is on one chip. RAM failure equals yeet the whole CPU because you can't desolder it. So this is like that. So it does need more time to cook, and we can be damn sure they're gonna cook it in sixth flight. But fifth flight, do not worry about it. Fifth flight, the Mechazilla is the main testing point, and heat shield. Heat shield is the weak link. If they can get the heat shield sorted, they are good, they're happy. Second tower is finished, and this tower is very interesting because A, it's humongous. B, they did show the world that you can actually learn from your first one. So they built the first one, super slow, methodic, time consuming. They're like, okay, here's the deal. We are wasting too much time. So what if each block, you already put the auxiliary in there and you put it and then attach the pipes, done. So this why this happened so quickly. Now compare this to SLS launch tower. That's interesting. So second tower is done, and by the time you will seeing the launch, even the top hat has already been installed. I do not think they will have chopstick installed, but the top hat is already being installed. So the pulley system would be there. So Starship has going through like a lot of upgrade. This is bit behind schedule, not behind schedule. I mean, like this is not ready yet for the limelight. This is ready for the limelight. So heat shield should work out, and chopstick testing would happen. Chopstick is like the main focus is chopstick. Heat shield, most people are damn sure because again the design also is getting upgraded. Not in this launch, not in S30. Next one will have that design upgrade where they are moving the fins somewhere backwards. Now let's come to the most annoying thing, Artemis delay. Now Artemis delay is basically reaching a point where it's almost lol, meaning the Artemis was designed such a way to A, to counter China, B, to actually go there and stay there. That was the true objective of it, meaning make sure that Americans land on the moon before China tries to do it. Basically land back at the moon. Okay, that was target number one. Most likely they will reach it. Target number two, which was actually the main goal of it, is actually to stay there. Basically, how we stay on ISS. ISS is a permanently habitat area. We wanted that permanently habitat colony there. Now, again, it's a very small, very early stage, but that was the idea. You do not abandon it. Basically, you go and you come back. No, you go there. Of course, early days you will keep coming back, but there has to be a continuous flow of people. And then you expand it. That was the whole point. Lay the foundation of actual space colony. Very early for a seedling, if you will. But that was the intent of it. And the whole project, Artemis, was designed that way. So to achieve that, they would need a rocket. Now, rocket is a big, expensive, and they have to make it cheaply. So they had to make it hyper expensive. It's one of those classic things. Whenever you try to save money in the early stage, you end up burning more money. That's what happened. This design is a bad design. Even they themselves had a better design, which was just using F1 engines, upgraded variant of that. And they're like, okay, we can do this better design, but it will cost more today, and it's gonna recuperate it in 5 or 6 launches. And NASA was like, we are tight on budget, so recycle all the old stuff. And again, there was other political forces jobs. So they try to do their best with the limited system because this will be cheaper. It was not. It's like even the worst case scenario pricing of the old rocket design, which was better. Basically, rebuilt Saturn V. It was like they scrambled that part away. So they built the booster. Booster is completely done, sorted, behind schedule, but done, sorted. We good, we got this. However, booster took so much time and the design was so complex, they knew for a fact that booster and second stage cannot be done at the same time. So they're like, okay, do the booster, put a interim upper stage, meaning a upper stage that's barely done, interim cryogenic upper stage. So they built that. Now the problem with that is that's barely powerful enough. You can go to low Earth orbit, best. You cannot go to moon, cannot have enough payload to the moon. You need payload to the moon to complete Artemis. So block 1B was designed. So idea is very simple. Block 1 basically is booster redesign and you put something on top. Block 1B is complete SLS with this puppy. Now SLS 1B exploration upper stage, yeah, that's being done by Boeing, and yeah, they messed up. How badly they messed up. There is a bulkhead, so to say. They had to machine it, very high quality part. And you have to understand, whenever NASA gives a contract, it's not like money product. They have to actually check it, especially if it's a high priority space program where you have humans in there. It's an extreme high priority, meaning they will scrutinize you. You can also, oh, it's behind closed door. No, they will see it. And when they did that, and there is an independent agency, so you do not have cross corruption. That independent is just like, bro, you do not know what you're doing. Now they did the analysis, submitted the report. Here's the funny thing about report. Boeing has qualified worker shortage, which has deal few years ago. It's like, how the heck Boeing could have shortage, to now everybody's like, are qualified workers still working there? So yes, it is a shortage issue. And be mindful, if your workers are the weak link, does not matter how many $1 billion you burn, outcome would be, crap. Now, why the heck workers are low grade? Again, most likely all the high quality workers left Boeing. Like, more than enough people have been screaming about Boeing for long ago, whereas like, especially when they got merged with McDonnell's Douglas, if I'm not mistaken, that's the company. Basically, instead of taking their engineers, they took their, basically C-class executive and destroyed the company. Many people left at that point in time. So this Boeing is not the same Boeing that built Saturn V's computer ring. It's completely different. It's like, what if we fire everybody? Yeah. So this company, so there is a very good chance they may have fired all the senior people, because again, senior people require higher salary. They're like, what if we fire you? Yeah. So that happened. And here's the deal. Every time new contracts are done, there is, because again, these contracts are multi-year long or sometimes multi-decade. You start with newbies and you train them. They're not investing on training. Yeah, that's why that term, that unqualified workers, that simply means untrained worker, and it's Boeing's responsibility to train them, because again, it's your tool, it's your project, you have to do it. And that recommendation, Boeing is like, lol, I don't give a damn. That happened in this past tense, happened. So now Inspector General Office is like, what the hell? So a lot of this sort of things happen, where it's like, dude, how are you doing this? This is not allowed, like flat out illegal. This is not allowed. You cannot mess this up in a human rated program. So the reality is, at this point in time, they have messed up so badly that quality control is lol, cost is lol, and delay is lol. It's not gonna happen. Like, it's gonna be like at least 5 to 8 years delayed, at least. And price is like lol. So that happened. Let that be very clear. That happened. That report came out 2 weeks ago. 2 to 3 weeks ago at this point in time. And that was on the rocket. That's like, you can say, okay, it's a complex beast, it's a freaking rocket, second stage. Okay. What about the tower? So tower was like, somebody was smoking something. So NASA had a program before this, before Artemis. They had a program known as Constellation. Constellation had rocket designs that were a bit more tame, so to say. So they was building this puppy for that rocket. So NASA got a new project, new directive, Artemis, okay, cool, awesome, SLS, okay, cool, awesome. They did not throw away that tower. They are like, what if we upgraded that tower? And you were like, okay, wouldn't that tower, of course, some towers have a bit of buffer built into it. Nobody builds a buffer, is like, okay, rocket was 100 ton, now we are putting a 150 ton rocket. Yeah, you do not build that kind of buffer. And again, if you built a buffer for a smaller rocket, by the time you put a larger rocket, you no longer have buffer. It's unsafe now. So they had to reinforce this mobile launch tower. So what is this mobile launch tower? Whenever you see the crawler basically crawls below this, pulls up the, basically this puppy, puts it in the launch pad. That's what they do. And this is how they get vertical integration. So this is a very important structure. Yeah, they reinforced it. Now here's the, that's cool, that sounds good, logical. They must have thought about it, and they could not do it. So they had a company, they did it, then they fired, had another company, did it, another company did it. There is not a single company, single contractor that started it and finished it. Nobody knows how this works. It's a jumble of hulululu, and God knows how it works. So it's bad. It's overcosted, does not work as it's supposed to do. And again, I'm reasonably sure all of you know so many hydrogen leaks, and not good. So they learned their lesson. Things happen. Again, SpaceX also did that. They had the first tower, not great, not quick enough. Second one, we got this. So second one, rule number one, blank sheet. You start from scratch, you build it for this rocket, for this large rocket, which we call Saturn, I'm saying Space Launch System Block 1B, basically the actual SLS, not some like your janky replacement, actual SLS. This whole tower from scratch, this company is building, Bechtel. Yeah, it's so behind schedule, it should have been finished 1 year ago. They are starting to lay down metal now. Yeah, that's how behind schedule. And they are getting bonus, cost plus contract. They're getting bonus now. Nobody knows how to build towers now. So there is a very good chance SLS would be the last rocket that is contracted by NASA. They're like, done, we cannot manage these people, because it crosses so much from corruption to a flat out idiocracy. It's sad. It's like, bro, you are telling me that you contracted someone for $300 million to build a tower. Good, awesome, GG. Okay, 500 million. Okay, you are telling me that you are spending $2 billion on a freaking tower and the tower is still not finished on time, and you are telling me that it will be delayed even further. That just happened a few days ago. As of July 2024, this was the report that was filed to Office of Inspector General. Yeah, it's bad. So Artemis is lulled now. Basically, the actual mission of Artemis to actually not just to beat China, to actually do something on moon that required like big ass rocket. Yeah, that's gone, because this is not complete, nor the launch platform. So 2029, that's the best case scenario at this point in time, that tower will be finished, not the rocket tower. And this is from Boeing, so lol. So yeah, Bechtel is the company that is making the mobile launch tower too. So bad. Now there is another fiery thing that I'm reasonably sure all of you must have seen it. This happened. So Rocket Factory Augsburg, it's a company with a lot of German people, and they suffered a boom event. So on 20 August 2024, they were testing this rocket. Now here's the deal. This rocket is supposed to go to orbit. It was not a test article. It was more of like a complete article, which they were testing it. So they tested it and the spin primed it. Everything started and then it went boom. Computers triggered a command of like shutdown, and that backfired. That shutdown command literally blew up the manifold, and then we had oxygen basically kerosene started to fire. It became a blowtorch. Then after that, oxygen fire happened. At that point in time, everything is gone. So it's not a fire anymore. It's almost like melting metal. So it's completely gone. So the startup sequence did work. They had a high-speed camera there. Startup sequence did work. It's just that after the failure, they did not have any containment plant so to handle a turbo pump going boom. So which again is reasonable. Turbo pumps are very energetic devices. Again, SpaceX also had suffered with this. Like if you compare to very early Falcon 9 Block 1, you will see the engines are in different grid, and they always had like a giant blockade. That blockade was there for that reason. So if one engine goes boom, it makes sure that it's contained in that path. They did not have a containment. So one boom, basically it destroyed the whole system. It did happen. It will cause them delay in the orbit. Now, is there likelihood that this company would be successful in 2025? Likelihood is very low. Not because like they are not good. It's simply because the market has reached max saturation, and you're talking about two dudes who have almost infinite money glitch, be it Elon Musk, be it Jeff Bezos. And Jeff Bezos scares me because that dude is patient. So that scares me. And then you have other player who are like small company that is reaching to medium company, which we call Rocket Lab. So at this point in time, there is not enough demand in market, whereas like, SpaceX is like, bro, we are launching almost once a week. You cannot compete with that. Rocket Lab is like, we are launching few times a year. You cannot compete with that. And Blue Origin, once they're like, we also got another thing. Oh, and there is also ULA and Sierra Nevada. So in this sort of saturated market, you're like, okay, we can launch up. Now, you may be like, okay, private companies may get governmental contracts, because again, if UK wants to launch anything, they have to go to ESA. ESA is hyper expensive. So they could survive there, but again, it's a small system. Military generally loves their big ass satellites for geostationary because it allows them to keep an eye on big things. They generally love their big rockets. So likelihood of this thing surviving, again, because nowadays you can have very tiny satellites poured into SpaceX bus. Basically, you ride a bus that takes you into low Earth orbit that SpaceX deploys, and that interim stage, so to say, actually deploys you into the orbit that you are wanting to go. So you no longer have that benefit also, whereas like, hey, I want to go into this orbit, and ride sharing did not have that luxury in the early days. Now they have. That's why like likelihood of these sort of small startups succeeding now and being delayed, like most of them, they are behind schedule against their own timeline. They are very behind schedule. So likelihood of them surviving is low, not zero, but low. Like it's tough out there. So this was my presentation on the news that happened this month. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.